education? Has private student loan debt destroyed those dreams? It doesn't have to. Why Refi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They can save you thousands of dollars, get you a custom payment that you can afford, and they don't care what your credit score is. Don't let private student loan debt ruin your life. Call Why Refi today.
I see him speak, I see him lead, I see him.
What concrete steps can I take now in order to achieve the goal of doing my part to make America great again?
You should go to Hillsdale College, America's greatest college.
If I could learn like Charlie, if I could learn like Charlie.
I listened to your podcast. I'm taking Hillsdale online courses right now.
That's what I'm talking about. I love it.
What should I read? How do I set my generation free? I need to know. How do I grow like Charlie? If I could learn like Charlie. I wanna learn.
I'm on pace to complete every single Hillsdale online course.
Every year, we add something new, another dream, another voice, another story.
Welcome to the comeback of Gold Star Science, Beauty, and Backbone. Welcome home. Teach your children how to blaze a trail of glory. Go lead in truth and go be the light.
Bold, visionary, God-fearing women, all shaping who we are. This summit isn't changing who it's for, it's changing how far it can reach. Because leadership grows stronger when every woman has a place in the story. We do it for you. We do it for her. Curated for her, the Women's Leadership Summit.
Hi, folks. You may be hearing a lot about Why Refi these days.
Student loans are now sitting at $1.8 trillion.
You need to talk to Why Refi. And they don't care what your credit score is.
My partner and I created this company with the intention of taking it to help borrowers get out of debt. Why Refi is the only company in the country that does what we do.
I think very highly Why Refi. We're all in with them.
We invited God into our homes. We invite him into our company. We want to make it an incentive for you to want to work with Why Refi. We give these folks the dignity to pay back their debt.
Please welcome the Chief Investment Officer and Managing Partner of Why Refi, Lane Schoenberger.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. Oh, what an incredible energy. You know, this is my first time in Ohio. This is exciting. Thank you. You know, it's an honor to be here among so many driven, passionate people who believe in our country and what it stands for. Why Refi is proud to continue our partnership with Turning Point, honoring our friend Charlie Kirk. And by sponsoring this is the Turning Point. Thank you. You know, each of us likely have our own reasons for believing our country is great. I'll share a couple that are near and dear to me. Faith, freedom, and family. All very important. You know what's also neat about America? Your ability to create and implement ideas that make the world a better place, also known as capitalism. So here we stand. Thank you. Isn't capitalism something? I mean, wow. So we're here today, we're standing at this crossroads, and now more than ever, it's crucial we have leaders who speak the truth boldly. That's where you come in. We need to get back to our conservative values. We need people willing to protect our God-given rights and carefully that were carefully drafted into the Constitution. We must look back at our history, warts and all, otherwise we're determined to repeat it. More importantly, we need people who are willing to engage in a civil conversation. We need everyone to understand that sometimes those conversations can be tough, but conversations lead to turning points. So let's get real and talk about a turning point, something that needs to be discussed. The amount of debt Americans are carrying. I'm going to talk about one specific type of debt here in a second. There's numerous reasons our country is drowning in debt, and I think we can all agree that the primary reason is, well, government waste, government spending. I'm not sure war is all of it, but I would tell you that it probably has more to do with government control, just out of control on spending and waste and theft. So I'd like to take a moment and discuss one part of the problem, the reason I'm here today. Total student loan debt in this country has exceeded $1.85 trillion. When that video was cut not too long ago, it was 1.8, held by approximately 45 million Americans. The government doesn't tell the whole truth in that number, though. About 70% of those borrowers have a co-borrower. Okay, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa co-sign those loans just so that their child or grandchild could go to school and get the education they deserve. That debt does include federal and private loans. There are several ways to solve the student loan crisis, but the first is to remove the government from the lending business. Let's get them out and return control to the private markets. If history has taught us anything, if we allow capitalism to address a problem, a solution will be found quickly. So my partner and I, we founded YRefi because we saw that millions of young people, just like you, were struggling with getting out of school with too much debt, with no way to pay it back, no clear path to pay it back with dignity. So I want to speak directly to you students out there right now, young leaders here today. Many of you are dreaming big, and you should. You're building your future, investing in yourselves, and stepping into the world with passion and purpose. However, I also know that for many young people that there will be a lifetime of debt that will follow you around. At YRefi, we hear those stories every single day. Bright, capable, young people looking to do everything right, and then you find yourselves trapped under crippling student loan debt. Here's what I want you to know. That debt does not define you. It does not erase your potential. It does not have to dictate your future. Sadly, borrowers who fall behind in their payments or default have very few options. Many of those stories we hear from students drowning in debt are heartbreaking. I've talked to several of them, and I can tell you, they're not fun stories. Parents and grandparents who selflessly co-signed only to find out that there was a problem when the collection calls started. At YRefi, our mission is powerful yet simple. We refinance distressed private student loans, not by chasing people down, not by writing them off, but by offering a manageable, sustainable way to pay that debt back with dignity. We believe in second chances. We believe in accountability. We believe in doing what no other company has done before. Help borrowers succeed by quickly paying back their student loans with dignity rather than punishing them with crippling student loan debt and predatory loans. You can say what you want. I'm not even going to address that. At YRefi, we believe you are more than your student loan balance. We know you are worth believing in. If you need our help, give us a check out at yrefi.com. When you call, you will not be directed to an offshore call center. You'll talk to a human being in Phoenix, Arizona. There is no phone trees. You go right to a human. So whether you need our help or not, I want you to carry this with you. Never let debt steal your drive. Never let a setback silence your purpose. There is always a way forward, and people like us who believe in you. I'd like to direct this next point to those in the audience who believe in the principles of capitalism, entrepreneurship, innovation, and the American dream. My partner and I founded YRefi based on those principles, and for those reasons, we have chosen not to accept institutional investment, Wall Street money, family office, venture capital. We've elected to invite people just like you and me, those seeking an investment opportunity not tied to the stock market, to be a part of our mission. Our motto says it all: do well by doing good. To do the amazing work we do at YRefi, we raise capital from accredited investors who share our value and mission. At YRefi, we're helping borrowers succeed while allowing investors to prosper. Together, we're proving that integrity, compassion, and capitalism can indeed coexist. If you're in this room or watching on TV, online rather, you believe in and support the Turning Point mission, the YREFI mission. So I'd like to leave you with one idea. You may have heard our commercials and endorsements sharing how we pay fixed interest rates to our investors. It is true. We've been doing that for many years. If participating and supporting both Turning Point and YREFI is something of interest, consider this. If you were to invest $100,000, the monthly interest income is about a little over $800 a month. Send half of that to Turning Point. Take the other half for yourself, or maybe send it to another charity or your church, whatever's important to you. And at the end of 5 years, you get your money back. It's kind of a cool investment opportunity. If you'd like to learn more about the investment opportunity, please visit us at investYREFI.com. Before I close, I'd like to take a quick moment to honor my friends, Charlie and Erica Kirk. Their belief in YREFI has meant the world to me personally and to everyone at YREFI. Charlie and Erica believe in what we stood for, what we stand for, and our mission, our approach, and the impact we make. Erica's continued support inspires us every day to keep pushing forward and keep fighting for the idea that everyone deserves a path to redemption and prosperity. So Erica, everyone at Turning Point, thank you for your friendship and for believing in YREFI. Together we can transform lives and help people find their turning point. So I'll end with saying, may God bless America, may God bless you, may God bless Turning Point. Thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Please welcome Chapter President Angad Kabra.
Good evening, Buckeyes! How are we feeling this evening? Awesome. Thank you all for showing up here tonight. The response to this event has been incredible, and our chapter has been so grateful and so excited to see you guys here. It is such an honor to host this event and the Turning Point Tour stop. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our campus PD and local law enforcement for their hard work and due diligence in keeping us safe this evening. I also want to thank Edna, Stephanie, and the entire Turning Point staff for making this possible. Tonight is about more than just one event. It's about having the courage to think for yourself, speak freely, and stand firm in what you believe. This is exactly what Charlie lived for, and this is exactly what he died for. And this is why this night is so important. If you guys would like to get involved with the chapter and make an impact on campus, we would love to have you. While you're here tonight, make sure you guys check your voter registration online using the QR code you guys should have received at the entrance. And for the ladies, Turning Point is having a meeting, the Young Women's Leadership Summit, this summer in San Antonio, June 5th to 7th. If you guys are interested, please see our Get Ready to Get Involved table near the front entrance to learn more. Now, before we begin, each of you guys have a rally sign. Can we raise that up and get a huge cheer for a good picture on 3? You guys ready? Let's go cheering. 1, 2, 3. Thank you all for being here tonight, and let's make some noise and get this thing started.
It's a mosh pit. Yeah, shawty bad, but she broken, she don't own shit. Mama asked me, son, when the trapping gon' quit. I been riding around through the city
welcome Savannah Chrisley.
Hello, everyone. I swear, every time I come to a Turning Point event, I get more and more excited because this is exactly what Charlie would have wanted to happen. Coming into this, it is bittersweet because, trust me, I would much rather see Charlie up here than me. But we do have to keep his mission alive. And first off, I do want to comment on my outfit. It is a very loose outfit. And the reason being is because I just went through surgery on Friday for my egg retrieval because I do believe in bringing more children into this world and teaching them the right way. So, before I get started, I really want to see a show of hands. This is going to sound like an odd question, but I want to see a show of hands of how many of you, after Charlie's death, used ChatGPT and you went in and you asked about Charlie, and ChatGPT told you that he wasn't assassinated or that maybe he was still alive. Exactly. And I went through this myself, and I found it to be very alarming because all of us watched him on September 10th. We all watched his final moments. And the smartest machine ever built, the one that is teaching our children, running our hospitals, writing our news, looked the American people in the eye and said, no, he's fine. That's not a glitch. That, in fact, is the system. The system is being trained. The system is being told which truths you're allowed to see. And if they can erase Charlie Kirk, a man who the whole world watched fall, what do you think they're doing to the truths that we don't see every day? What do you think they're doing to you? They told us that artificial intelligence was going to be neutral, objective, just the facts. And about that, I don't know if you guys know, but researchers ran ChatGPT through 15 different political tests. It came back progressive on 14 of the 15. Just one of it was missed. And honestly, that was probably a glitch, because I would say it was 15 out of 15. A peer-reviewed study out of the UK found that ChatGPT favors Democrats in America, Labor in Britain, and a literal socialist party in Brazil. Somehow, this perfectly neutral machine keeps landing in the exact same spot, and it's not in the middle. My favorite part, researchers in Beijing ran the test and found the exact same thing. And let me tell you, when Chinese academics are telling you American tech leans left, the debate is simply over. This is the tool rewriting your homework, answering your questions, shaping what 100 million people a day think is truth. And it has opinions. Nobody voted for those opinions, but here we are. And I want to level with you for a second. I know some of you have walked into Turning Point events since Charlie's death, and you've felt lost, because I have too. Charlie was the face of Turning Point. He was the guy who walked on to a hostile campus by himself, sat on a folding chair, and said, "Prove me wrong." And now he's gone. So I'm going to challenge you tonight the same way I've challenged myself every single day since his death. Growth does not live in comfort. Growth lives in the room that you simply just don't want to walk into. The loss that you never saw coming, the moment everything you built your life around falls apart, and you get up anyway. Charlie Kirk would have been the greatest president of our lifetime. I believe that wholeheartedly. But his mission did not die with him. His mission is in every single person in this room. Amen. Every chapter starting this week, every kid who saw what happened and decided, I am not staying quiet anymore. And you know what I think about a lot, and I love it? I think about Charlie sitting across from Gavin Newsom. Let that sink in. The youngest, loudest conservative in America, across the table from the Democrat governor of California. Different God, different family, different country, basically. And they talked for 2 hours. They pushed each other, they disagreed with respect until Gavin Newsom used the Lord's name in vain. There was no walkout, there was no meltdown, there was no crying to HR. That is what Charlie built. Not the dunks, not the Twitter fights, the guts to sit across from someone who hates everything you stand for and refuse to hate them back. Here's what I want you to do this week. And yes, I'm dead serious. Find the most liberal kid on your campus and buy them a coffee. And I'm going to challenge you here. If you somehow find my Venmo and request me and say it is for you to buy a liberal kid coffee, I will send you the money. And I am serious. I mean it. Sit down, listen, ask questions, and push back. Earn their respect. Respect isn't given, it's earned. That is how we win, not by screaming louder than them, but by being the person in the room that they simply can't dismiss. Charlie did it every single day of his life, and so can you. Now, tonight, we have Vivek Ramaswamy here. I absolutely love him. And with that being said, I have another question. I want to see a quick show of hands, be honest, about how many of you are planning to leave Ohio once you graduate. There's a lot of hands raised. And that right there, that's the Ohio problem. Your roommate may be moving to Nashville. Your cousin may be in Austin. Your sister may have just posted a TikTok from Miami. Why? Because Ohio takes a cut of every single paycheck that you earn. Ohio taxes your parents on the house that you grew up in. And then Ohio has the nerve to wonder, why did you leave? Well, we all know why. Vivek is going to end Ohio State income tax. That means zero on your first real paycheck, on the startup that you're going to build, on the house that you're trying to save for. That's the difference between you and maybe your friend in Tennessee right now. And let me tell you something else. Remember the AI that I was talking about that couldn't even stand by the facts of how Charlie died? Well, it's running on a server somewhere. And we can fight against AI. We can fight against data centers. But at the end of the day, they are going to exist. So let's figure out how to work with them. And the question for Ohio is really simple. Are those servers going to be built here, powered by American energy, paying American paychecks, hiring kids who graduated from this exact same school? Or are we going to hand that future to Texas and Virginia and wonder for the next 30 years why kids keep leaving? Vivek says it best, build it here. And I'm going to challenge Vivek. While we build it here, maybe let's also regulate it here. And at the very least, let's teach the damn thing how to tell the truth when it comes to what happened to Charlie Kirk. Vivek, he's also going to roll back property taxes so your parents can afford to stay in the home that you grew up in. He is going to give every kid in this state school choice because the zip code you were born in should not dictate the rest of your life. And what I love is the fact that he will be the first governor in America to pay the best teachers like the professionals that they are, based on merit and not how long you've been in a position. He also is going to back the blue. He is going to protect your Second Amendment rights. And let me tell you, he is going to walk into Columbus and clean out every crooked interest that has been riding this state into the ground while our generation gets to foot the bill. And yes, I'm going to say it. We will continue to fight for our children. We will continue to look at what is in their cereals, what is in baby food, what is in formula, because Make America Healthy Again is not a slogan. It is the future of your children. So, with that being said, in 14 days, it's primary day, May 5th. And I don't care if you have never voted in a primary in your life. I don't care if you have a midterm that morning. I don't care if it's pouring rain. You show up. You go vote. You bring your roommates. You bring the guy down the hall that says he doesn't do politics. Also, if a man doesn't do politics, ladies, get out. You bring the girl in your econ class who thinks that voting just doesn't matter. And men, if a woman says that, you get out too. Because the other side is counting on you to stay home. They're counting on you to be sad. They're counting on the algorithm that day to tell you Charlie's movement is dead and you might as well sleep in. We're going to show them something different. Charlie Kirk may not be alive. The machines can lie about what happened to them all they want, but we know the truth. But what he built, standing right here in this room on every face. So when they tell you the movement is dead, you tell them, we're just getting started. When they tell you to hate half your country, you tell them Charlie Kirk sat across from Gavin Newsom. And when they tell you your vote doesn't matter in the primary, you tell them, ask me again on May 6th. So guys, I encourage you, get out and vote. Talk to your peers. Find my Venmo. I'm going to buy you guys coffee. I'm standing by that. But remember, your children are going to have to suffer the consequences of the decisions that you make today. And if we don't have younger conservative voices that enter into the Republican Party, I truly do believe the Republican Party will cease to exist. So I hope you guys have a great time tonight. Thank you for showing up for Turning Point, and let's get out and vote for Vivek.
it.
My name is Charlie Kirk, and I love America.
Why are you here?
Because I love talking with people I disagree with.
What have you done for your country?
Started an organization that's now in 1,000+ campuses to save the greatest culture and country ever to exist. I go around universities and have challenging conversations because that's what is so important to our country, to find our disagreements respectfully. I love talking to people I disagree with. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens.
But I really respect, and I think you don't agree with me on a lot of stuff, but I really respect that you'll have a dialogue. How do you think we get more people that can argue like on both sides of the aisle?
I think this event is a great example of it, right? I think that this event is, we need to have differing opinions. We need to have people that don't share the same worldview and see which one is better and try to find common bonds. You should have your own discussions like this every day. You should try to model it, try to have, back and forth, and that's what makes the country strong and great, civil dialogue.
Find where you're actually able to persuade one another of what's actually true about the future of our country. That's the America that I grew up in, and I believe that is the America that we still can create together. That's what Charlie Kirk worked to create with the Turning Point chapters that he has spawned across this country. We have an opportunity and I think an obligation to carry on that legacy. Last year was a year where we rightly said, fight, fight, fight. I think this is the year where we begin to say, unite, unite, unite.
Please welcome Vivek Ramaswamy.
Good to see you guys tonight. Thank you for coming out in honor of our main man, Charlie Kirk, and Turning Point USA. For everyone else who wasn't part of Turning Point who's here tonight, give the Turning Point crew a round of applause for what they're doing at campuses across the country like this. Look at tonight. I was watching that video backstage of Charlie, and it reminded me of our times together in 2023, 2024, traveling the country. And I really mean it when I say this. I don't think there's a single other one person I could give more credit to for tipping the balance in the 2024 presidential election than Charlie Kirk. He brought you guys out, the youth vote out, to stand as proud conservatives. Charlie and I visited campuses across the country, especially in 24, and we used to have these intense conversations. And on one of our trips, we were traveling, from one location to another. We took a flight together. We had an intense conversation actually about faith. And I asked Charlie to define faith. That's how do you define faith? And Charlie, in classic style, responded without missing a beat. He said, faith means believing in something that you cannot see. That's the truth. So he said, we've been immersed in this culture of materialism, of empiricism, and I have to see it to believe it culture for way too long. But you know what he told me? He said, sometimes you have to believe it to see it. Today, I'm going to speak about that same idea, that same concept of faith. Not so much religious faith tonight, but about faith in our country, faith in the proposition of America itself. We're in a room filled tonight, I will presume, a room filled tonight with America First conservatives. I'm proudly one of them. Thank you. Thank you. But to put America first, we have to first define what America is. And this year which marks the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence, this is a year to ask an appropriate question. Who are we as a country? For the first half of this decade, the woke left gave us a clear answer to that question. I didn't say a right answer, I said a clear answer to that question. They taught us that our identity is based on race, gender, sexuality, the native, inherently inherited, genetically immutable characteristics that we're born with. If you're a member of one race or gender, you're an oppressor. If you're a member of a different race or gender, you are oppressed. There's a hierarchy of intersectionality in America. That's what they taught us, based on your genetic identity. Now, according to this worldview, America's history traces not back to 1776, but to 1619, when the first slaves arrived in America. And our national history, according to them, is defined by the legacy of slavery, oppression, disenfranchisement. In the words of the so-called anti-racist scholar Ibram Kendi, the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, and the remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination. Those are his words, not mine. But here are my words on that matter. That vision of our American identity is wrong. In 2021, I wrote a book called Woke Inc., which criticized that woke worldview at a moment when that was a heretical thing for the CEO of a venture-backed multi-billion-dollar biotech company to actually say. And I'm proud to say we have seen peak wokeness now behind us, culminating in the 2024 presidential election. It's not done, but the peak is behind us. Now, I ran a presidential campaign premised on speaking hard truths, not when it's easy, but when it's hard. So I will continue to do that when I say that over the last year, we've seen a different view, gaining popularity on certain other corners, different from the woke left's corners of the internet. It says that American history traces back not to 1776 and not to 1619, but to 1620, the year that the Mayflower landed at Plymouth Rock. And according to this worldview, somebody who traces their ancestry back to the Mayflower is more American than someone whose ancestry does not. Sounds a lot like the hierarchy of the woke intersectional worldview. And this view of American identity is also wrong, for the same reason that the woke left was wrong too. Neither 1619 nor 1620 was actually the year that defined America. It was 1776. The year of the Declaration of Independence. So what does it mean to be an American in the year 2026? It means we still believe in those ideals of 1776. It means we believe that all men are created equal. It means that we believe that our rights are given to us by God, not by our government. It means that we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us rather than the other way around. It means that our elected representatives ought to be the ones writing the laws that bind us, not unelected bureaucrats. It means we believe in merit, that the best person gets the job regardless of their skin color. It means that you ought to be judged not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. It means we believe in the rule of law, so long as those laws are legitimately adopted. It means that you are free, tonight as you will be, to speak your mind, that you are free to practice your faith without the government standing in your way. Those are our founding principles. That's what our founding fathers fought a revolution to secure, so we could enjoy those ideals 250 years later. But I'll tell you this, our identity as Americans isn't just about those founding principles. It is also about a distinctively American culture crafted in the shadow of those principles. It means we believe in accountability. It means that we celebrate a Protestant work ethic. It means that we're courageous, that we're brave, even heroic when called upon to fight for our country. It means sometimes we take risks, sometimes we fail, but we pick ourselves up and we do it again. It means that just like our founding fathers, we're deeply curious about the world around us, hungry to discover new things about it, from putting a man on the moon to a person on Mars, from quantum computing to artificial intelligence, all the while believing that it is our manifest destiny as Americans to lead the way. That is who we are as Americans. Now the left will say, I'll say our friends on the left will say, we can't possibly be a nation defined by those ideals because we have so clearly fallen short of them throughout our national history. Look at the history of slavery, of the deprivation of voting rights to black Americans, to women, to the Japanese internment camps of World War II, to the Trail of Tears for Native Americans. To which my response is, yes, we've fallen short of our ideals at times. But I would rather live in a country that has ideals and falls short of them, rather than a country with no ideals at all. After all, nobody calls Iran or China a hypocrite. To be a hypocrite, you had to have ideals in the first place. See, others will say, this one got popular in the last couple of decades. Others will say our diversity as a country is our strength. To which my response is, no, it's not quite right. Our strength is that which unites us across that diversity. E pluribus unum, from many, one. The ideals enshrined in that Declaration of Independence. Ronald Reagan understood this well to some of our, let's just say, parents who are in the back, okay? We'll address Ronald Reagan from your generation. He understood this well. He famously said, right, you can travel to Italy, but you would never be an Italian. You can travel to France, but you'll never be a Frenchman. You can live in Germany, but you would never be a German. You can pack your bags and live the rest of your life in China or Japan, and you will never be Chinese or Japanese. But you can travel from any one of those countries to establish roots in the United States of America, and you can still be an American so long as you work hard, you play by the rules, you make your contributions, wait your turn, pledge allegiance to the flag, and obtain your citizenship in the right way. That is America. And let me tell you something. That is what makes the American dream possible. It is called the American dream for a reason. There's no such thing as the Canadian dream, okay? Might have been winning the Gold Cup, and it didn't work out for him, all right? Whatever it is, all right? It didn't happen, all right? We beat him in hockey, gold medal hockey. There's no British dream. There's no Chinese dream. Now, these things sound silly to say. It is the American dream that makes American exceptionalism possible. And on a personal level, on a deeply first personal level, as somebody who was born and raised in the state, in Cincinnati, Ohio, how do I know that the American dream exists? Because I have lived it. My parents came halfway around the world, half a century ago, with nothing to their name. My dad worked for a 5-figure salary at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom worked at the VA in Cincinnati and at nursing homes across Southwest Ohio as a psychiatrist. They were two working parents who didn't have childcare. I went to public schools through 8th grade, and then I went to St. X for high school. Eventually, I got some bombers in here. Let's go, long blue line. I appreciate that, man. St. Xers in the crowd. I'm happy to hear that. And after I graduated, I'm grateful to that education because it gave me the foundation I needed to go on and do some other things. Eventually, I went on to found, I'm proud to say, massive companies. The biggest one is called Roivant, today a $20+ billion company on the NASDAQ that has developed life-saving and life-changing medicines, including 5 of which are FDA approved today. The second biggest one of those companies is a company called Chapter, which is now also a multi-billion-dollar company that helps older Americans navigate a broken and overly complicated Medicare process. And there are multiple other earlier stage companies that hopefully are on their way to potentially achieving even bigger things than my first two. I wasn't born a billionaire. I wasn't born a millionaire. I wasn't born an anything heir. I was an heir to nothing. But here I am now. I'm proud to say, as one of the successful entrepreneurs, most successful entrepreneurs of my generation in the country, one of the most successful businessmen in our state, the youngest person in the history of our country to run for U.S. president as a Republican, and with your help, God willing, in a position to lead the very state where I was born and raised. That story is only possible in the United States of America. I am grateful to this country for giving me those opportunities. That is the American dream. That is what makes us the greatest nation known to the history of mankind. Now, I see a lot of young people in the audience, and I know that some of you may be skeptical of that American dream, and I understand why. Since the pandemic, it's no doubt, costs are rising faster than wages. College graduates are graduating with debt on their shoulders, but having a tougher time finding high-paying jobs. It's hard to afford your first home. and our educational system is failing abysmally. And that is up to leaders like me to fix. That's on me. My faith teaches me that it is my moral duty to fix it, to use the blessings that this state and this country have given to me and to my family, and for us to leave this state and our country better than we found it. That is why I'm running to be your next governor. It is not for fame. It is not for fortune. It is because I know that together we can lead Ohio to be the top state in the country, to raise a young family, to live the American dream, and to give your kids a world-class education that is your birthright as an Ohioan. And here's what I know. By the end of next year, it's not that far from now, we're sitting almost in the middle of 2026. I will give you this. By the end of 2027, we win this election big in November. I take the oath of office in January of 2027. By the end of 2027, high-paying jobs will be moving back to Ohio because we're ending capital gains taxation and eventually income taxation in this state. That much I know. By the end of next year, your electric bills will be lower because we're producing more energy right here in our own home state. You should keep that money and put it back to live your life. By the end of next year, this much I know, our schools will be performing better because we replace woke indoctrination with actual academic standards in math, reading, writing, civics. You got to know something about your country to pledge allegiance to your country and be proud of your country. And our kids will start the right way by the end of next year. By the end of next year, housing costs will be lower in the state because we're cutting property taxes and we're building more homes so you can afford a home and live the American dream by the age of 28 or 29 or 30, as I believe is your expectation as an American. By the end of next year, young professionals like all of you graduating from Ohio State, you'll be moving back into our state's great cities. From Cincinnati to Columbus to Dayton to Toledo to Cleveland to Youngstown to Akron. Because you feel safe again to have a nice dinner and walk around in the short north or downtown of a city where you move without fear of being assaulted or mugged at night. That's not too much to ask in the greatest country known to the history of mankind. You deserve it as an American. And I promise you this too, by the end of next year in this state, people of differing political beliefs will still actually be able to be friends with each other and get together at the dinner table like the Ohio that I grew up in, because it is easier for us to unite in a rising economic tide. That much I can promise you by the end of next year. I can't promise you peace in the Middle East, okay? I'm not going to promise you to end global poverty, nor do I view those as my responsibility. But I can promise you this, to the people who vote for me, I will promise every single Ohioan who votes for me, lower costs, bigger paychecks, and better schools. And to those who do not vote for me, I will also promise you lower costs, bigger paychecks, and better schools. That's not too much to ask of our leaders. For Ohioans, for Americans right here at home, that much is on me. I believe we're going to usher in a new dawn in Ohio, and I believe that a new dawn for Ohio will be a new dawn for America. You vote me into office, you fire me if I fail, that's the way the system works. Hold my feet to that fire. I'm going to ask for your help, right? I'm going to ask every one of you. You've got the primary coming up, and the reason primary is important is everybody who shows up at a primary shows up for the general election. So I'm looking at this audience. We've got at least a couple thousand people here tonight. I want every one of you to vote 10 times. And I don't mean that in the sense that the Democrats mean it. Okay, I mean drag 10 people who are not here tonight, who would not have voted in the primary tonight, out to vote on May 5th, and then go out and do it again. 10 more votes, 10 more people who would not have shown up in November. And if you guys do your part, I promise you, my family and I will do ours to make sure that Ohio's best days and your best days in Ohio are also ahead of us. That's what we're asking of you. Thank you. Thank you. And pretty soon we're going to invite my friend Lawrence Jones. We're going to have a conversation between the two of us and open it up to all of you. But before I do that, I'll give you my closing words in this introduction. I have another ask of those of you who are here tonight too. Speaking to you tonight as a proud American who will die for our country if we have to, if that's what it comes to. I have a demand of those of you in this room. Do not make the same mistake as the woke left. Do not see yourself as a victim. I don't want to see the next generation of young conservatives go the direction as the people on the woke left who have lost their way, the woke left that we successfully defeated. Have faith in our country. Have faith in yourself. Ask not what your country can do for you, but start by asking what you can do for yourself and for your family. And it turns out that too is a great service to our country, especially when our national debt is over $37 trillion. Are you going to encounter some hardships along the way? Yes, you will. That's life. But hardship is not the same thing as victimhood. Hardship is something that happens to you. Victimhood is a choice. Because in the end, the number one factor that determines whether you achieve your goal in life, I didn't say the only factor, but I said the number one factor that determines whether you achieve your goals in life is actually you. It isn't the patriarchy. It isn't the Jews. It isn't the Muslims. It isn't the billionaires. It isn't the foreigners. It isn't the white people. It isn't the black people. It's time for us to be done with victimhood culture in this country. We don't whine, we win. We're not victims, we're victors. That is who we are as Ohioans. That is who we are as Americans. We are built on the unapologetic pursuit of success. Individual success, your family's economic success, your kids' educational success, America's civic success. That success is our heritage, and if we abide the principles of our founding, then success will remain our destiny. That is the truth. That is what American exceptionalism is all about. And as our friend Charlie Kirk taught me a couple of years ago, sometimes you have to believe it to see it. Thank you for coming out today, Ohio State. We love you guys. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our great state of Ohio. We love you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. And stay standing on your feet, because we're going to welcome a good friend of mine, Lawrence Jones, co-host of Fox and Friends on the weekdays, I believe one of the rising stars in conservative media. He's young. He's only 33 years old. Lawrence Jones, come on out here and let's have a great conversation. Thank you, man.
Welcome, Lawrence Jones.
Thank y'all. That was a great speech, man. Inspirational. All right, I'm not going to take too much time because we want to get into the good part, is that's the questions. All right, you got Bernie Sanders, AOC, Mandami. They diagnosed the problem that a lot of these young people are feeling. Hopeless, they can't get a house, affordability is a crisis. What is the conservative solution?
Sure. So look, I think that part of the reason you look at Mamdani in New York, he gets elected, is he's articulate, he's able to diagnose a core problem in New York City. The problem is they have the solutions that would actually make those very problems even worse than they are today. So socialism is not the answer. But conservatives, and we'll take a round of applause for that, that sounds fine to me. And we're not going to go for socialism in Ohio either, that's why I'm running. But it is up to us to offer our own vision of what the alternative looks like. It's tangible solutions. It starts with increasing the supply of everything that matters. You want to bring down electric bills? Produce more energy. Supply and demand, price comes down, you pay less. You want to build more homes to bring down the cost of housing? Cut the red tape that gets in the way. This is something a governor can absolutely do. You want to bring high-paying jobs back into a state? Why are young people leaving the state? It's because businesses are going to Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. And I promise you this, by the time I'm done, give me a couple of years, Texas and Florida will be looking up to Ohio rather than the other way around, right? So we know how to get this done. But I also think we have an opportunity to embrace the toolkit of the future to do it, Lawrence, right? You think about, we're in a changing world where a lot's going to change. You know, we may like it, we may not like it. It's just, as Savannah said it well, actually, it's happening, right? You think about the future of quantum computing, the future of AI. And I think we have a choice. Do you want to shape the future, or do you want to be shaped by it? And I think the conservative solution is choosing abundance, choosing excellence. This is a buzzword, you know, the Ezra Kleins of the world were trying to reshape the Democratic Party and said economic abundance. It fell kind of more or less flat in Democratic corners because they want to go socialist. Now, here's my view. The conservative case for abundance is a little different. It's not just about the green pieces of paper. Those are important. It's important to be able to live the American dream, to be able to secure a good life for your family. But once you secure actual prosperity, that's also an opportunity for spiritual abundance, an abundance of civic purpose that we're missing as well. More time that you're able to be productive at your job, make more money, take a paycheck home, afford that first home, but also to dedicate that time as a parent, to raise your kids in the right value set without having to have fear of putting food on the dinner table. So I think the conservative solution is a conservative case for abundance that includes making more money, bigger paychecks, lower costs. But that's a path to a kind of deeper abundance of meaning and even spiritual abundance that we can
But what about AI? Because these young people, I understand the world is changing, it's a competitive market, and we want these young people to be a part of it. But there's a lot of folks out there that are afraid of AI. They feel like they're going to be replaced. Why even go into the job market? What would you tell them?
So I tell them this. First of all, let's take a look at the last half decade of potential looming global catastrophes. I want you to think through me with this on this, all right? And I'm maybe a little different than some of the other, you know, Republican Party lines on this. I'm just trying to think independently about what's going to be best for the future. Let's take COVID. The person I'm running against is Dr. Amy Lockdown Acton, okay, who shut down public schools in this state. And the sad part is she led Ohio to be the first state in the country to shut down our public schools. In Cincinnati, public schools were closed for nearly 2 years, while my alma mater of St. X was closed for 5 days. Those kids in the public schools will never get those 2 years of their education back. That is a moral failure. It is the equivalent of a sin as a public leader to have committed that, and that's not going to happen again. But to answer your question, that was a symptom of a deeper worldview in the country, that COVID was a world-threatening existential disaster to humanity. Was it a real risk to elder patients and others? Sure, but was it an existential risk to humanity? Or did we actually cause even more human suffering, particularly for young people, by the overreaction and the restrictive response to COVID-19? I believe that the over-restrictive response to COVID was actually, over the long run, worse than even the direct impact of the virus itself. I don't know if you agree with me on that. So that's one example. I'm coming to AI, but it's related. Now let's come to the next years. Under the Biden years, what did you have was the concern about global climate change. The idea that an infinitesimally gradual small increase in global surface temperatures was going to be a threat to humanity. Let me give you some facts. Okay, 8 times as many people die of cold temperatures rather than warm ones. The Earth actually is more covered by green surface area today than it was half a century or a century ago, because carbon is plant food. So don't get me started. I can keep going. But again, the same question is, which was more harmful for humanity? The existential threat of climate change, infinitesimally small increases in global surface temperatures? Was that the real threat? Or was it the restrictive response to the supposed existential threat? That was actually far worse. If we had avoided $30 trillion of wasted subsidies in the West for wind and some projects in yesterday's version of solar, and put that into natural gas, oil, and nuclear energy, you'd be paying 25 cents at the pump, okay? So that's a mistake where the very people who are suffering are the ones who the left claim to want to protect. So what's our lesson from COVID? And from, for that matter, the climate change agenda? It is that a restrictive response to fear-mongering about a global catastrophe is actually worse than anything that phenomenon could actually present. So I want to make sure that we, on the right, or on the left, or whatever, we as Americans don't repeat the same COVID mistake, the same climate change mistake, when it comes to now this, thing that You know, some people have, you know, let's just say Kamala Harris had trouble spelling when she was the AI czar's AI, right? It's this thing that's so fearsome that you can't even speak it into existence. It's actually an opportunity. I truly believe that if we view it that way, we're going to be able to use this not to displace jobs, but to displace tasks and create new jobs in the process. So here's the way I look at it. The more you are likely to see yourself as a victim, the more likely you are to be a victim. But the more likely you are to see yourself as empowered, the more likely you are to actually shape a better future for yourself. So that's where I land on this. That's how I'm going to lead Ohio in a way that creates high-paying jobs and makes your life better in the right way, guarding against some of the risks, but that's the approach I take.
You talked about faith earlier in your comments, and we're seeing a resurgence of faith. Young people in general, but specifically young men.
Yeah.
What do you think is driving that right now?
So it's interesting you bring that up. First of all, I think it relates to our last question. I think one of the biggest risks of AI in the long run, if we do this right, is not job displacement or whatever. It is actually a loss of purpose and bowing down to some kind of new authority, particularly even at a young age, writing your essays free or whatever. That, to me, is actually the bigger response. And the best protection against that, the best vaccine against this new threat, if you will, is actually faith. If you believe in yourself and you're grounded in seeing yourself as already part of something deeper and bigger than yourself, then you're not going to be controlled by AI. It is a tool that you're able to use. So I'm glad if it is true. And I think some of the data is, I've been looking at this. I think it is possible that we're seeing a resurgence in faith. Part of what we saw was a decline in faith and a rebound. So we're now back to, you know, I think a level where we used to be in the past. But whatever it is, it's a good trend. And I think what accounts for it is that for the last couple of decades, our young people have been hungry for a cause, hungry for purpose and meaning and identity at a time in our national history when the things that used to fill that void in our hearts, faith in God, patriotism, hard work, family, had really disappeared, eroded gradually in our culture. And that's where the whole woke epidemic came from, by the way. When you ask yourself, so my first company, Roivant, we recruited young people from a lot of colleges. They came in, George Floyd died. There's BLM protests across the street, and suddenly there's a demand that I, as a biotech CEO, sign on to some pledge, which I refused to do, and that's ultimately what led me to write Woke Inc. and talk about that whole chapter of my life. But the thing I asked myself is, those are good young people. Yeah. I mean, we recruited them. These are people who came to our company because they wanted to develop life-saving medicines. And for me, the reflection was, why are these well-intentioned young people turning to this toxic ideology? Why do they believe that climate change is going to be an existential threat to the planet or catastrophize the next thing, whatever it is? There's an old saying from Blaise Pascal. He says that if you have a hole the size of God in your heart and God does not fill it, something else will instead. And I think that if you fill your heart with the real thing, it actually dilutes a lot of those poisons to irrelevance. So what accounts for that? I think people are over the woke thing. People are over the climate change thing. They're over the secular substitutes for the real thing. And the way I look at it is, you know, it's got to be natural. It's got to be true to you. I think whatever faith, major faith you follow, if you follow it in an earnest way, that's all else equal better for our country. But even if that's not for you, if you revive a civic faith in our country, we say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in our schools, that alone is a step forward in the right direction. At the end of the day, individual, family, nation, and God beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate, if we have the courage to actually stand for it. And we will in Ohio.
All right. It's the moment y'all been waiting for. Let's open it up for questions. Who's the first one?
Sure, we'll bring microphones around. I can't really see where everyone is, but bring the microphones around.
What's your name?
Hi, my name's Diana.
Good to meet you.
Yes, I am a Christian, a wife, a recent graduate, and so I am very honored to talk to you guys today, so thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight.
I have to start this off. I used to be a very big fan. I just have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Mr. Ramaswamy, Vivek.
Thank you.
You frequently talk about turning Ohio into the next Silicon Valley, but the reality on the ground looks very different to the hardworking people of the state. Tech giants are buying up our rich multi-generational farmland to build massive data centers and solar fields. Ohio has 13.1 million acres of farmland. There are roughly 76,000 farms in Ohio. Historically, over 90% are family-owned. My aunts, my uncles, my dad. The broader food and agriculture industry is the largest in the state, employing 1 in 6 Ohioans. Over 400,000 people, including direct farming, food processing, distribution, food and agriculture, contribute roughly $135 billion annually to Ohio's income. That's a lot of money.
It is.
Data centers require 1,000 acres per mega site, employing only, after it's built, only 50 to 150 permanent workers. We aren't seeing lasting, widespread job growth from this. Instead, we are seeing our energy grid overwhelmed, leading to skyrocketing utility bills for everyday families. Furthermore, the environmental impact is alarming. The Ohio EPA is currently considering permits that would allow these data centers to discharge untreated wastewater directly into our surface waters. I'm almost done. Directly into our surface waters, threatening the aquifers our communities rely on. My question to you is, what is actually more important to you? Preserving Ohio's irreplaceable farmland and the working class farmers who sustain it, or paving over our soil for tech conglomerates that drive up our utility bills and pollute our water?
Thank you. Appreciate the question.
Thank you. It's a good question.
It's a great question, and it's one that, frankly, I've encountered traveling the state, and I'm not saying this to say that this is not the first time I've had this conversation. The reason that I'm the only candidate in this race endorsed by multiple agricultural groups, from our dairy farmers to, you think about our corn and soybean farmers, is because my view is that we have to conduct economic development in a way that protects Ohio's most important and oldest industry, that is agriculture, but in a way that does not treat it as an either-or, because we have a lot of brownfield sites in our cities that have been abandoned, that for a lot of reasons are really attractive places to bring new economic development where we're underweight as well. Economic development can also include serving our ag industry, something that our leaders, I don't think, have looked at enough. Think about new economic development to bring, for example, dairy processors to our state. There's a lot of new technology in advancing the effectiveness of processing dairy into cheese, into yogurts, right? And Ohio is one of the top Swiss cheese producers and producers of other forms of cheese, but not where we once were. That's embracing the technology of the future. It is building in Ohio, but in a way that actually increases demand for the products of our farmers. So the way I look at it is, I'm one of these people who rejects the idea of two good things. You got to choose between one or the other. No, I want it all for Ohio. We will do economic development in a way that brings high-paying jobs to the state on the terms of local communities. Can we do both of those things at the same time? You're darn right we can. But what do you need is a competent leader at the top that views my responsibility as not leading Greater Columbus. I'm not running to be the mayor of Columbus. That's a different position. I'm not running for it. I'm running to be the governor of all of Ohio, and the success of Ohio will include the success of every part of Ohio. And that is why I am proud to have the endorsement of every major agricultural group that have endorsed in this race. They have our back, and we have theirs. We have yours to protect our farmland and keep our electric bills low by making sure we're also producing more energy in the state. Thank you very much, all right, for your question.
Thank you. Vote for Casey Putsch.
It's free country.
Next question.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ivory Kennedy Jr. I'm a father, I'm a teacher, and I'm a believer. And I wanted to ask a question, but I have a little bit of a timeline, and I promise I'll be brief. As we celebrate 250 years of our nation's founding, that's 250 years worth of history. 160 years ago, we fought a civil war. 150 years ago, the Reconstruction era, we saw black progress that was real, that had been reversed. 100 years ago, the 19th Amendment came about and women were granted the right to vote. And just a little bit, about 60 years and some change ago, we had the Civil Rights Movement, which has been under a lot of scrutiny from Turning Point USA. So my question to you is, as you talked about what defines America, as I teach history, I try to make sure that I teach all of history. And what we are kind of seeing right now is a resurgence of, I keep hearing people talk about the woke. People have accused me of being woke because I choose to tell the full picture. My grandmother was born in 1924 on a former slave plantation in Selma, Alabama. And like we go down there and talk to people who were a part of the civil rights movement and so on. So my question is, how do we move forward in a space that we are today when we talk about history in a way that's demonizing? And you keep saying victimhood. Like, I don't consider my story victimhood, but it makes me sad when people, you know, disagree. Like 250 years ago, I don't know how many people know this, but Thomas Jefferson wrote in one of the original drafts, he talked about enslavement and he talked about how bad it was, but we don't necessarily talk about that. And people get upset with me about that. Like when I leave here, I'm going to pray for everybody because I want people to do that for me and my child. So how do we move forward in a way that we teach a full picture of American history?
All right, let's let
and
him
not
answer.
letting it caught up
I
in the
appreciate it. What's your name,
political
sir?
whims of that. Ivory Kennedy Jr.
Ivory Kennedy. And where are you a professor? You're here?
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher here. So look, I really appreciate your respectful, framing of that question. And I think it's really thoughtful. Here's my perspective on it. I think that there is a time and place for different times in the educational process where you give our kids different nuances of American history. Because I do think we want them to have the full picture when they graduate. I said it in my speech. Have we been perfect in living up to our ideals? Of course not. Because we're a nation comprised of men and not gods, human beings, not gods. And you're always going to fall short of your ideals. But at the same time, I think especially early in education, let's talk about first, second, third, fourth, even fifth, sixth grade, you got to teach those kids what those ideals were before they can process what it means to have fallen short of them. Now you get to high school, it's a different question. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. I think it's important to read primary source material. There's a very important reason why I invoked the Japanese internment camps during World War II. Black disenfranchisement. Think about even the Trail of Tears. I mentioned it in my speech tonight, did I not? Because I think it's important that for a mature audience, we're able to see our history in its whole. But what happened in the last half decade, you pick your word, woke or whatever, and I wrote a book, Woke Inc. I defined what that means. We don't have to use that word. What happened is I think we became too obsessed as a country for flogging ourselves for our failures instead of celebrating the ideals that even if we imperfectly fell short of them, we still aspire to them. And that's where I want to see us move, okay? All right. Now, I'll also give you this. One last point is I think some people become addicted to the problems they set out to solve because if they disappear, then they have nothing else left to do. Okay? And that's just the truth. I see it in the nonprofit world. I see it in government. In my case, I wrote Woke Inc. at a time where that was a pretty heretical thing to say. I mean, when I was a biotech CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, nobody was saying the things that I was saying then. And I said in the speech, I think the peak of that kind of wokeness is behind us, which is also why you don't hear me talking about it anymore, because it's not a top 5 issue in the way that I think it was an absolute top issue a few years ago. But how do we move forward is your question, which is such a great framing. I think the answer is let's ground ourselves in the civic ideals in the first place. Let's treat our especially older kids in high school and in our universities like adults and engage in nuanced debate about our shortcomings. But at the end of the day, still admit and embrace that this is the greatest country known to the history of man, whether you're black, white, brown, or anything in between, to actually live as an American and be proud of that. And if we can do that together, I think we'll be on the same page. So, thank you. I said black, white, brown, anything in between. We got a couple of interesting faces.
Hello. My name is Luke Woody, and this is my friend Arashid Lamaim. And now, unlike my Franco-Marxist friend over here, I am a red-blooded American clown, right? I've never been infected with the woke mind virus, and I could speak, but he cannot. So he wants to ask you a question, and I'm going to sort of interpret it for you so you can understand, because he can be a little hard to understand at times.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. This is his first time.
All right. Do you think that given Dr. Amy Acton's history as a physician, that come election day she may have an advantage in healthcare policy due to your, what's the next word? History.
I just want to be respectful to the guys behind you. We got a long line of people.
Absolutely.
So,
hey, can you speed it up? History with, biotechnology scam accident?
Yeah, okay, thank you for your opposition research commentary. Thank you. You're great. So I'll tell you, I think I know a thing or two about fixing the healthcare system, including, above all, probably the real hero of our family is my wife, who is a doctor who actually practices medicine here in Ohio, at Ohio State, where she's on the faculty, saving lives every day. Yeah. And I also believe that if we're actually going to fix the healthcare system, we need to make it less complicated. We need to actually put more money in your pocket directly rather than a lot of government intermediaries along the way. And I know about that based on the companies I founded. I founded a company called Chapter that makes the Medicare process less complicated for seniors. It's helping seniors across the country. I built a biotech company that developed life-saving medicines for kids. And this is probably the one I'm most proud of. There was a therapy that every other pharma company had turned its back on, where 100% of kids who are diagnosed with this genetic condition, born, die by the age of 3. I'm proud to say my company developed a medicine where 70% of those kids now live lives of normal duration. That is one of 5 life-changing and life-saving drugs. And so, if you want a bureaucrat who shut down your schools and shut down our economy once, put her in charge, I'm sure she'll do it again. But if you want somebody to liberate our economy, deliver economic growth, and to actually bring down healthcare costs while improving quality, yeah, I'm a businessman. I know how to get that done. I won't apologize for my success, and I will not apologize for Ohio's. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
What's your name?
My name is Aryan Pathak. I'm a student here. I just had a question about merit, right? You talk about we have to be a meritocracy. We have to be, can't say no to being a victim. All these sorts of things, which, I think most people can agree with. And you called out how people on the alt-right exhibit this sort of attitude. But I'm here to say that even in this organization, right, you have like a journalist from TPUSA who went to Texas and mocked a Hindu temple. And now you're sitting here and, I guess like work this for me, like on a genuine human conversation. Like, how could I call myself a Republican when there's an increasing amount of people who, because of my skin color, because of who I believe in and the practice of my religious faith, see me as someone that's not a part of their tradition. And then to my further point is like, from your perspective, do you see this rise in Asian Americans in the GOP? Is that a strategy by the establishment to say, hey, since your parents are immigrants, you're more qualified to talk about it, and it might help them to win in a post-Trump era?
Yeah, I'll say a couple of things. I'm nobody's pawn. I'm my own man. I don't report to anybody but to myself and to God at the end of the day, who I believe puts each of us here for a purpose. And the other thing is I will never defend the indefensible. Okay, there's a reason I would be a hypocrite if I did not criticize. I did criticize the woke left when I was a CEO of all the companies that were sectors that were buying into it. I went the other way. And now I have been, can't speak for others, but I will be unapologetic and I will not mince words in criticizing the same kind of quasi-socialist, quasi-discriminatory, self-hating, quasi-socialist ideology now emerging on the right. So I'll call it out in 360 degrees wherever I see it. But here's my view. Here's my basic sense of the picture. All right, you got some really crazy people, loony people in the Democratic Party, and then you have the rest who might have the right intentions but the wrong solutions. And the Republican Party, just because you call yourself a member of the right, but you want the government to solve all of your problems and you believe that you should have a form of affirmative action for yourself, that doesn't make you a conservative just because you call yourself one either. I believe in true conservative principles. That means we believe in success, individual success. It means we believe in freedom. It means that we believe the government should be as small as it possibly can be to secure our liberties rather than to actually seize our liberties. That's what I believe the Republican Party should and today still does stand for, and I'm going to speak for those principles wherever the opponents to those may be.
All right. Thank you.
You want to just finish up with the follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, I was also going to bring the
fast.
point. I'm sorry for taking too much time, but Charlie Kirk, may he rest in peace, he also tweeted out that he was fundamentally against, you supporting H-1B visas. He thinks, he touts what Bernie Sanders says. Yeah. I'm not saying I agree or I don't agree, but you have Donald Trump buying 10% in Intel on behalf of the taxpayer. So this thing just comes off hypocritical. I'm an economics student. I understand the benefits of free markets, but I see some hypocrisy within the GOP.
I will say you will see hypocrisy everywhere you look in life, okay? So it's not a good point that you can nitpick and, take one person's quote and match it to their party and whatever. The beauty of our, I think, conservative movement, and one of the reasons that I worked hard to get Donald Trump elected in 2024, is I believe there's a big tent with room for healthy disagreement like we're having tonight, like healthy debates that Charlie and I mean, we grew very close. We would have debates where we agree on 95% of things, we disagree on 5%, but exhibit a culture of mutual respect that at minimum is committed to the principles of the American founding. And if you agree with me on those things, we're going to work with you to take our country to the next level. That's the way I look at it, rather than quibbling and nitpicking around the edges. But, I'll speak for my principles at every time. Thank you, man.
Great job, man.
Hey there, Mr. Vivek. I wanted to ask, you did propose...
What's your name?
Oh, sorry. My name is Tommaso Cagioni. I'm first year here at Ohio State University. Cool. And I would like to ask, you proposed nuclear energy as one of your solutions and maybe a way to address the energy crisis and the demand of data centers. And maybe I wanted to hear explicitly what your policies, how that would incentivize more nuclear investment here in Ohio. I know especially there's a lot of investment with the small modular reactor model, especially with Oklo Company down in Pike County.
Yeah, I was just there the other day in Pike County.
So I was maybe wanted to hear what your policies would look like, and maybe also how you would address the safety oversight.
It's a great question,
instilling those policies.
Very, very good questions. I mean, practical stuff that's about really shaping the future. So I appreciate that. So I think that, first of all, I'm really big on all forms of energy that address the supply-demand imbalance that we have right now. Oil, natural gas, big proponents of all these things. However, if you think about the long-run future, okay, maybe we just fast forward years from now, you have Grok, you've got Gemini, you've got Claude, whatever it is. Eventually, it looks like there's going to be LLMs, maybe even agents for every one of you by the time you're in the workforce 20 years from now. I think there may not be enough carbon atoms left on the planet to combust, to ultimately power that future, which means nuclear energy ends up being the only option. It turns out that if you look at the facts, certainly for modern nuclear energy, it's actually as adjusted by deaths, the safest form of energy production actually known. Not a lot of people know this. 20% of the electric grid in the United States of America is already powered by nuclear energy. But the irony is that the regulations that kicked in the 70s and have stuck around ever since then have actually impeded the development of safer reactor models. So we're using older generation and arguably at the margin even less safe nuclear technology than Gen 3, Gen 4, eventually Gen 5 and Gen 6 nuclear reactors. So I don't want to get too technical here. Small modular nuclear reactors are popular because you can build them quickly. Often they are mobile. And for a while, that was all you could do when there was no capital in the sector and when the regulatory burden was too heavy. And I'm all in favor of it. But I think eventually we're going to see large modular reactors. We're going to see new technologies emerge that are safer than perhaps any other form of energy production. The federal regulatory state has gotten in the way, and I think that one of the things we can do in Ohio is A, clear the regulatory brush at the state level for unnecessary regulations, to focus exclusively on human safety as the sole metric, rather than, how many fish in some river are or aren't going to be existing based on some non-existent model. Focus at least on exclusively human safety. Focus is the mother of success. Focus on new technologies that may sidestep the need for uranium enrichment. Right? There have been issues in parts of Ohio where the process of enriching uranium has resulted in toxins. We're talking, 30, 40, 50 years in the past. Learn from that. There's now new technologies emerging that can actually work on unenriched uranium which both lowers costs and improves environmental safety. So it's a great question, and it's a lesson for so much of our politics, right? I'm an entrepreneur by background, both from biotech and other sectors, including more recently even looking at the energy sector. And I think so many of these solutions are not black and white. Are you pro-nuclear or anti-nuclear? There's so many kinds of nuclear energy. Are you talking about fusion? Are you talking about fission? Do you believe that light water should be the moderator that slows down the neutrons? Should it be heavy water, which is deuterated water? If it's deuterated water, you don't need nuclear enrichment, you don't need uranium enrichment. Totally changes the game. And you see, that's where I want our educational system to actually thrive. I want our students graduating in Ohio to be so ready for the future that yesterday's political debates are just artifacts of the fact that people didn't learn everything they needed to, and we can just power and shape the future together, and leadership in nuclear energy is one of the ways we're going to do that in Ohio. Great question.
Good deal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up.
Hi, my name is Ashton, and I wanted to ask, you guys kind of said like public safety, and I'm going to use that to segue into my question. So I am currently under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, with just like a yes or no, that you are in support of Donald Trump's immigration and ICE enforcement.
I'm absolutely in support of sealing the border, which he has done more successfully than any president in American history. Yeah.
Okay, so about your comment about sealing the border, do you also agree that he's been the most effective at deportation and getting undocumented immigrants out of the country?
I think the deportation numbers eventually got up to be higher than where they were under Obama. At first they actually weren't, but eventually they did get to be higher. And I think that we had an influx of, nobody really knows, but 10 plus, 20 plus million on some estimates, illegals who entered the country. And so every one of them who committed a crime or I think had a transgression, I think should be out of the country. I do believe that.
I do agree that people who have immigrated illegally and have committed crimes, like, they should be given due process first, which I don't think they are, but that's not the entire point of my...
Well, give me a question. Yeah, give me a question, because I want to make sure I address it.
So, Donald Trump's deportation numbers, you had said that at the end of the year, they were higher than Obama's, which they weren't. They were under 400,000. Obama's were consistently above 400,000, making him the more efficient with the deportation policies. And in addition, if you're just looking at raw removal numbers, Biden was actually better because of Title 42, or Title whatever. No, listen, he removed more undocumented immigrants than Trump has done in his presidency.
What's your question?
So good question. I'll just set the ground rules. Here's my general rule of thumb. For a good question ends in a question mark. So tell me yours.
There is no substantial evidence that provides that undocumented immigrants are actually a threat to the economy or American people. And before...
Let him speak. Let him ask his question.
Let him get to the question with the question.
Just ask your question.
Okay, well, operating under the impression of and under the actual data that says that undocumented immigrants aren't a threat to the economy and to public safety, yes, it is. I can cite sources. Okay.
Give me the question.
Ask your question. Quick.
Do you think it's justifiable to deport undocumented immigrants instead of giving them due process when they aren't actually committing crimes and are a threat? Instead of allowing them the ability to apply for citizenship.
So look, I think if you come into this country, you break the law, you should be deported. That's what I believe. If you come to the country and you're a lawbreaker, you should be deported. And we need practical solutions from there. Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
Hi, my name is Nora Long. I'm a student here. As you know, the United States has spent $12 billion on Israel. This could provide for 3.5 million children with free health care for a year, 2 million families with a year's free groceries, or 600,000 families with a year's free rent. Since one of your main campaign promises is to provide for America first, will you commit to lobbying Congress to stop the funding of Israel?
So I'll say a couple of things, Nora. So I want to separate two important and different themes here. Okay, this is really important to hear from me. It's very personal to me for a reason. When I ran for president, what's that? We'll stick to Nora's question for now. So when I ran for president, I was the only Republican on that stage who actually said that in the long run, I think it was in the best interests of the United States and for what it's worth in the best interests of Israel, but I'm looking after the interests of the United States, to say that $3.8 billion a year, it should be sunset. That's what I said. And I took a lot of heat for that when I ran for president. So that's one thing. That's geopolitics, foreign aid. That's one thing. But I would be incomplete if I did not also answer a second dimension to this question, which is that I do think it is strange, as the person who stood alone on the Republican debate stage and took criticism from people on both sides of me, and this hurt me in my presidential run. I will say this, it is beyond bizarre to me, the fixation on that $3.8 billion of the federal budget, when you look at the extent of far more inexcusable waste, fraud, abuse in a lot of different directions. Foreign aid to hundreds of other countries that we also should not be supporting. Which raises a deeper question of what the heck is going on with this particular line item and that obsession. And I don't think it's just about saying how many more American lives we could have improved with that $3.8 billion, because you could be talking about $3 trillion that we could be recapturing and recovering from wind subsidies to third world country foreign aid that's actually a lot of which is corrupt. So here's, I'll tell you what I do think underlies it. I think it's this mentality that somehow it is a mindset that one country in the world and the U.S. relationship with it, or particularly even, let's just talk about it, Jewish Americans are somehow responsible for the struggles of Americans here. And I think that view is also ridiculous. And I don't think that we should be indulging this. So at once I can say that, do I think we should probably sunset long run $3.8 billion a year to Israel? I think it's in our interest, and for what it's worth, I think it's in Israel's interests too. And views have changed since I was up there 2 years ago. I think a lot of people who might have disagreed with me then agree now. But I will say that while also saying that the focus that smacks of, I would say, some anti-Semitic instincts of laser focusing on this without focusing on other problems is also weird, bizarre, and should probably also stop. So thank you.
I was just only asking
no, not
because
for you.
You mentioned it before because
I'm not addressing that
before. So
I'm not addressing that to you.
Asking.
Yeah, you were very fair in your presentation of it, but I get that question a lot, and I wanted to separate both of those components of my answer. So thank you, Nora.
So just yes or no, though. Will you lobby Congress?
My focus is not on lobbying Congress. My focus is on leading Ohio to be the top state, lower costs, bigger paychecks, and better schools for you guys. That's my job. Foreign policy is somebody else's. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Next up.
Hi, I'm John, and we've met twice in the past, and every time we've met, you've been very respectful, cordial to me, even though we disagree openly on a lot of things. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Appreciate that, man.
And I'm sure, everyone does appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have a multifaceted question regarding government intervention in certain industries. So first question is, are there industries that are essentially necessary enough, like their public service is necessary enough and their profit margin is not attractive or large enough to garner like big capital investments where government intervention is justified?
Give me an example.
Infrastructure, for example.
Okay.
Like if we left it to free enterprise completely.
Infrastructure is the job of state government, actually.
Sure.
Building highways, roads, bridges.
Yeah.
I'm all in for it, and we're going to do it in Ohio.
That's one example I'm sure Republicans and Democrats could both really align on.
Sure.
But
the CHIPS Act, but I'll draw you an example. The CHIPS Act is not. I mean, that thing was a disaster. I said it at the time. It was controversial to say. It was bipartisan support. Now you look at it, we got, a big hole in the middle of New Albany, and there still aren't being chips produced when they were supposed to be put. And whether it was in China or in the U.S., industrial policy in the direction of just corporate favoritism, corporate coddling, I don't think corporate coddling is a strategy. Right? If Intel needed a different CEO, they should have gotten a different CEO before they lobbied for the CHIPS Act. And in some ways, that covers up the effectiveness of the company. So infrastructure investments, highways, roads, bridges, all about it. It's a responsibility of state government. I'm going to do it. On the other hand, corporate nanny-statism and corporate coddling, that's special interest lobbying. And I'll tell you something for Ohio is my opponent attacks me every day for being financially successful, for being a billionaire. As I told you, I wasn't born a billionaire, but here's what's true. nobody can own me. Okay, we will do what is right for this state regardless of special interest lobbying, and I don't think we should be doling out the money willy-nilly for that reason. Thank you.
And the second part of my question is specifically about your income tax cuts and proposed tax cuts regarding property taxes.
Sure.
How will Ohio's economy distinguish itself from, let's say, Kansas, that in 2012 also tried this or tried implementing this approach where they predicted that cutting taxes down to zero would cultivate a great economy, bring back jobs, etc., and also that public services wouldn't fail or really underperform? How will Ohio, I guess, deal with the cuts in revenue in their budget?
It's a good question.
It's a great question. So I like sort of this smart stuff here, right? So thankfully, Ohio is in a much more privileged position than a lot of those other states that try to wave a magic wand. The first is we're a state of great cities. You know, Georgia's got one great city, Atlanta. We've got Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Cleveland, Youngstown, Akron, Toledo. We are a state of great cities. And we're a state of great cities not even that long ago. 6 of the top 15 wealthiest cities in America were in Ohio. Toledo was the glass capital of the world. Akron was the rubber capital. Youngstown and Cleveland were the steel production capitals. My hometown of Cincinnati was actually known as the Queen City. Dayton led in computing. So we're a state that wasn't that long ago. Bringing back that industry or even reviving that industry or keeping that industry in our state is really responsive to the consequences of policy. If somebody wants to take their company public, if somebody wants to sell their company, what do now? They move to Tennessee, to Texas, to Florida, instead of actually staying in this state where you could reinvest that capital. I think if you have someone at the top who's also focused on cutting red tape, speeding permitting timelines, if you combine all of that with actually taking the income and capital gains tax rate to zero, cutting property taxes, delayering government, and then you market the state to the country, I think we're going to have a boom that this state has not seen since the first industrial revolution. So that's what's coming. I'm going to say one more point to you, because you asked a smart question. I get this sometimes. This is going to pay for schools, right? So property taxes pay for schools, they say, and it does. So the number one criticism that the left in this state hits me with is, isn't this going to hurt our public schools? Here's the answer, and I want people to understand this property tax issue really clearly, all right? In a setting like this, we can actually explain this in more than just 2 seconds. So here's what happened in the country. Under Biden, the government spent way too much money. The Federal Reserve went on hyperdrive, printing money. That was the root cause of inflation. Literally, when the government's spending too much and printing more dollars, that raises the nominal value of all assets. However, there's a lot of homeowners who don't own other assets like stocks in the same proportion. So their home values rose up. All asset prices went up, but home values really went up. But then their property tax bill went up, and they don't have enough cash left to pay it. So there's people literally thinking of moving out of their homes. Some of them are moving out of their homes because they are tax poor. They don't have enough cash to pay what the value of the home is on paper. That's a direct consequence of failed federal policy. But those rising property taxes had nothing to do with the fact that the school's budget needs were different. It was totally unrelated. In fact, the irony is that the schools, many of them, that got windfalls from that are the ones that have seen the greatest declines in academic performance. And we have a demographic issue in the state to make this worse, right? Aging population, young people are leaving. Our enrollment in schools since the pandemic is down by 7%. Property tax funding for those schools is up by nearly 40%. That means we as taxpayers are paying 40% more per student than we were before the pandemic. And academic achievement has actually fallen off a cliff. That is a broken system. So am I going to be able to bring down property taxes in a massive way while also improving the performance of our schools? You're darn right we can, by eliminating the waste of those layers of government and at the same time bringing standards, old school standards, back to our public schools. If you can't read by the end of 3rd grade and you're medically capable, you're not going to 4th grade until you can. Graduation is not a participation trophy. Reading, writing, math, that's what we need to bring back. And we'll be able to do both those things at once. Right. Great question.
We only got time for a couple more. Good question, man.
These are good questions, yeah.
Hey, Vivek. My name is Max. So in 2023, you advocated to raise the legal age of voting to 25, which would effectively disenfranchise the majority of college students. And on your campaign trail, you've also advocated
I'll just correct you there for a second, because it's my policy. I kind of know it. So when I ran for president, one of the things I said was that if you're a foreigner coming to this country, if you're coming to the United States and you want to become a citizen, you have to do two things. You have to swear exclusive allegiance to the United States, and you have to pass a citizenship test. That says you know the first thing about the country. How many branches of government are there? What branch of government does the president lead? And the question I asked is, do we believe that every high school senior should have to pass that same civics test before themselves having the full privileges and immunities of citizenship? And I thought that was a reasonable idea. The policy that I advocate for in running for governor, and I stand by it, is as a condition for graduating from high school in the state of Ohio, you will have to pass the same civics test.
I could read you the quote if you want. You specifically said you wanted to lower the legal age of voting, so through a constitutional amendment. That was the quote. And let me just get my question out. Let me get my question out before you answer. The other thing you've advocated for on the campaign trail was to consolidate the number of universities in Ohio, which would reduce the number of colleges, right? So my question is, why are you so afraid of young, educated people voting and being involved in politics?
Oh, I'm not. I think we need more of it. I think we need more young people engaged. We want to travel. If we could get every young person when they turn 18 to be informed and engaged in our politics, whether or not you agree with me and showing up at the ballot box, that's a good thing, and we want to bring that to our country. I want to talk about the university point, though, because this is super important. This is super important, and I won't blame you for getting some distortion that you've read about through the press. Here are some hard facts. Ohio has, absolutely, I'll give you my words right now, and believe me, I'm not afraid to share them with you. The universities are suffering from an under-enrollment crisis across Ohio. Here's what the consequences. College tuition costs are spiking. It is unsustainable. And the value of a degree is going down at the same time. Many colleges are shutting down multiple majors because they only have 2 or 3 students, sometimes fewer. To me, that's unacceptable. And here's what fake politicians do, or standard career politicians do. Sweep that under the rug because that's an inconvenient issue to talk about. My view is I'm not in this for fame or fortune or winning a re-election. I'm in this to fix problems. That is a real problem hitting our state like a boulder unless we fix it. And so what I propose to do is we don't need colleges to replicate and copy each other. We should have a great college of nursing, sure, but that doesn't need to be necessarily the same institution that offers an architecture program or a philosophy program or a civil engineering program. Let's create centers of excellence throughout our state where each of those other universities, other than Ohio State, which I'll come back to. I'll come back to Ohio State in a second. That's a different university. But the universities in different parts of our state, let them excel in a couple of areas and really bring tuition down in the process and give graduates the bang for their buck. And then I want Ohio State to actually be the top public university in the country across all of those majors. That's common sense.
So you're saying you want to regulate, you're saying your solution to under-enrollment is to regulate what universities can include in their,
no regulation.
In their education?
No regulation.
That's what you're saying. You're saying
I'm not
they
actually.
should focus on specific things.
If you listen carefully, what I'm telling you is,
to what you said. You said
you, the taxpayer, are paying for it.
In one specific
So what I would say is you, the taxpayer, and you, the students in tuition, are the ones paying for it. I don't think you should be funding subpar universities. I think you as the taxpayer and the students should be funding excellent universities that actually enable you to compete in the workforce of the future, and that's the plan we've laid out. Thank you, sir.
All right,
we're going to go to the next question.
Time for one more.
Yeah, how you guys doing tonight, gentlemen?
What's up?
Good, doing well, man.
Hey, pretty good. Love both of you guys. I'm really glad to be here tonight. I'm glad you guys are both here. Lawrence, I love this show. It's really, really nice. I'm looking forward to having you win in November. Vivek, I think that it'll help make Ohio great again. And how much do we love Vivek, everybody? Love
Thank you. There's a guy. There's I think some clown. There's a clown show going on behind you. Sorry about that.
All right. But anyway, that's great. And I mean, I don't live in Ohio, but I'm really well connected to the state, and I really think it'll be great for our state. So thank you guys for being here, and have a good night. See you guys.
USA, 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 USA. And, we're going to give this gentleman a chance, but just, pray for the mental health of whoever it was that needed to be removed. So we'll pray for him. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, man.
All right, I'm not sure exactly what that was, but
me neither.
it's great to be here, and I'm really glad that you're running, and I feel like you can make Ohio great again and help build a red wall. So thank you guys.
We are going to, absolutely. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate it.
Last one.
Thanks for the time. I know you responded to that girl.
What's your name?
Brandon. I know you responded to that girl a few minutes ago saying that the Israeli problem is more of like a fixation than a real question that you'd like to address. But I feel like you're being slightly disingenuous.
I don't think I'm being disingenuous.
No, I know. I just think you are.
You're entitled to your opinion.
What's your question?
About to get to that. Thank you. If we give you our vote and push you into this position of influence over our state and country, I want to know what you're going to do about the Israeli lobby problem and the ideals of the central text of rabbinic Judaism called the Talmud. Practices like usury, charging interest to strictly non-Jews are clearly intended to keep the average American and European citizen down. When the country that is our biggest ally practices and supports these ideas, it is important that I know the candidates I vote for will fight against these twisted ways that are meant to keep us down.
I disagree with the premise of your question. That's my answer.
Thank you.
And this is an important point that related to the theme of my speech. At the end of the day, the problem of the one-time woke left was seeing yourself as a victim of what someone else did to you. Okay, we could debate U.S. foreign policy. I think there's a lot of room, healthy room for healthy debate on the future of U.S. foreign policy, on U.S. military strategy, on how much money we're wasting in other causes that could be invested in better causes. Let's have that debate. But what I will not abide is the vilification or the mockery of anyone's faith. And I will tell you that. To pick on one faith, I'm not Jewish, but when it was the secular left mocking Christianity, I say the same thing. When it is someone else today mocking Judaism, I say the same thing. The mockery of anyone else's sincerely held faith is actually a mockery of faith itself, and that is un-American. Okay, we're a country where you get to practice your faith in an earnestly held way with freedom. That's what our founding fathers fought for. So if you want to have a rational debate about foreign policy, that's a complicated topic that's going to go in a lot of different directions. But to sort of go in I would say, a vengeful attitude by quoting one religion, the Talmud, and airlifting a quote and saying somehow that's vilifying a group of people, I just don't think that's right. And I'm not being disingenuous when I say that. I'm being as genuine as I possibly can be. It's not right, and that's not something that I can endorse in my response to your question. Right. But I will close with this, Lawrence. I will close with this. Thank you. I think that's the final question we're going to take tonight. But the final thing I want to say to this group is, at the end of the day, this country is, you could talk about from every angle. We have some questions from, you could call it from the right, from the left, or whatever, criticizing some imperfection of the United States of America. And in the end, if you want something better than this country has to offer, there's nowhere else on the planet left to go. This is it. This is the last best hope for a human history. That's this country. And so I'm asking each one of you to play your part in believing in our country again. To do something where, and one of the things I love about these events, and this is Charlie Kirk's legacy for our country. And Lawrence, I'm so glad you're here too. You and him used to travel as well, right? The idea of talking to someone who agrees with you, that's easy. But I'll give each of you an assignment in closing tonight. Take a minute between now and the end of the school year to talk to somebody who actually deeply disagrees with you. Yeah. Listen to them as we aimed to do our best tonight. Hear them. And then actually respond to them and show them that there is a better way to persuade them. And what's going to happen is 9 out of 10 times, you are going to emerge from that with a stronger conviction in what you already believed. And 1 out of 10 times, you might just change your mind a little bit, as I have in my 40 years of life too. And I think both of those are great outcomes. It is a win-win. But that's the culture of our American founding. And as much as we started tonight talking about the founding principles, I think it's worth closing tonight talking about the culture of the American founding. The people who founded this country are not that much older than the people who are in the front rows of this audience tonight. You're 33, man?
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Alexander Hamilton was younger. These are guys who spoke. I mean, Jefferson spoke 5 or 6 languages. He traveled to France, became a scholar of wine before opening wineries here, signed the Louisiana Purchase, the Lewis and Clark expeditions, wrote letters with John Adams, who after he left, despite being a Unitarian, became a Sanskrit scholar after he left office, pointing Thomas Jefferson in an 1820 letter. These people were just deeply curious about the world around them. And I think that combination of curiosity and ambition, that's what really defined Ohio, the frontier, the first frontier state. That's what defined this country. And I think there is so much more to life, to our future, than just litigating some political debate that you read about yesterday on Twitter versus actually just being curious and open about the future. And so if you guys do your part, I think we're going to find out there are a lot more young conservatives in this state that don't yet know that they're young conservatives. All right, if you do your part and keep doing the hard thing, talking to the people who disagree with you rather than just those who agree with you, I truly believe that Ohio's best days, and through Ohio, America's best days are actually going to be ahead of us, and you will be the generation that leads America to greater days than we have ever seen. Not just to make America great again, but to make America greater than we have ever been. Thank you guys for coming out today, guys. We love you, Ohio State. We'll be back. Thank you.